Okay, now let's talk about interface analysis, prototyping, requirements workshops, surveys and questionnaires, and process modeling. Let's get started. Number 6. Interface analysis. This technique is used to understand the inputs and outputs of the system. In here, the BA carefully analyzes and deconstructs the way that a user interacts with an application, or the way one application interacts with another. By outlining the software content, you'll be able to describe the purpose of each interface involved and elicit high-level details about it. The main goal when using interface analysis is to define the system interfaces, boundaries, stakeholders, inputs and outputs, as well as validation rules and triggering events. Now let's talk about creating prototypes to elicit requirements. So this is exactly like it sounds. The BA creates a prototype of what they see the application will look like and present it to their stakeholders. This is very valuable for non-technical stakeholders such as business owners and end users who may not understand all of the technical aspects of the requirements but will better relate to a visual representation of the end product. You may use very basic tools like a pen and a paper or even whiteboarding. If you want to get fancy, I like using mockingbird.com to create mockups. It's free and very easy to use. Here's what BABOK has to say about prototyping. Stakeholders love it and use it in identifying, describing, and validating their interface needs. Next, requirements workshops. This involves gathering a previously identified stakeholders in a structured setting to elicit, refine, and update requirements. One thing to note about workshops that they are very similar to brainstorming sessions that we discussed before, except that workshops have different structure and usually take longer time, a day or few days. Also, workshops need both a facilitator and a scribe to record participants' input. Next, surveys or questionnaires. Surveys can be useful for quickly gathering data from a large group of participants. Basically what you do is, you set a list of questions, they could be open or closed-ended, and send them to the appropriate stakeholders. You can use any tool for that. I like to use Google Forms. And make sure that the survey wording must be unambiguous and precise. Okay, so what are the pros and cons of sending out surveys? Pros: they are quick and inexpensive way to gather input from customers. On the other side, they are non-conversational. You send out a question and you get back an answer. There is no room for clarification or follow-up questions. And in some cases, you won't get many responses to your survey. But I have a tip for you that helps you get more responses in a timely manner. When you send out surveys or questions in general, make sure to add a reasonable deadline, ideally from 48 to 72 hours. Next, process modeling. It is creating diagrammatic process flows of the system in both the current and the future states that can be used at any stage of your project to visualize and document the system artifacts. Process modeling promotes better understanding of the requirements, and it is a very effective way of communicating with stakeholders. Now it's time to introduce this topic, UML diagrams. I'll be discussing the 9 types of UML diagrams in very details in the next section. Okay, before we wrap this up, here are some very common interview questions about requirements elicitation. What's the difference between gathering requirements and eliciting requirements? Also, which of these techniques have you used before, or how do you choose what technique to use? Another very common question, what are good requirements or smart requirements? What are the types of requirements, or how do you categorize your requirements? I want you to take your time, think about it, and leave your best answer in a comment, and I will answer all these questions in the next video.